Hi, I'm Brittany Allyn, and welcome to Savor the Flavors. If you've seen my Savor the Flavors travel shows before, you know that something I enjoy doing when I'm traveling is discovering new dishes and ingredients, and then bringing that inspiration home to my kitchen where I create my own recipes as a way of sort of reliving some of my favorite travel memories. In fact, that's how today's recipe came about. I'll share with you a memory as well as my recipe for carrot barley soup. I'm cutting the carrots for our soup. We need 1.5 pounds of carrots for this, and we need about a 1/2-inch dice on them. They don't have to look perfect, but they need to be about the same size so that it'll all cook evenly. So I told you there was a story attached to this recipe. Some of you may know, some of you may not know, that I am also a singer, and I've toured and recorded with some of the biggest names in country music. And it was while I was on tour in Ireland with the legendary George Jones that I had some of the most amazing soups I have ever had in my life. And one day we were between shows and we stopped in this little town called Westport to have lunch, and everybody kind of scattered, and George's hairstylist and myself kind of found a wonderful spot. We found this place called the Linenmill, and there I had the most amazing carrot lentil soup I have ever had. It tasted so good, and as we were eating, somehow we got talking about barley, and we decided that when I got home, I was gonna come up with this carrot barley soup recipe. I couldn't wait to get home. And when I did, it turned out fabulous. So it's a way for me to relive my experience in Ireland every time I have this soup. Now, I've already started. I've got a 1/4 cup of olive oil heating on the stove. We're gonna add our carrots. And then to that, also, I've got 1 large onion that I've diced. I prefer a sweet onion for this. And I've got 1 stalk of celery. I've got the zest from 1 orange. Trust me, this is great. Earlier I made the zest by taking a vegetable peeler and just stripping the zest off of the orange. Here I also have 2 cloves of garlic that have been slightly smashed, and we're just going to saute this mixture till those veggies get nice and crisp tender. Now here, I also have some chicken broth, and I've got 1 cup of that. We're going to heat that, and in that we are going to make the barley. Now, if you wanted a vegetarian version of this, you could, of course, use vegetable stock instead of the chicken stock. We're going to get that going. We want that to come to a boil. And we're just going to let these veggies cook till they're nice and crisp tender. While that's going on, I want to talk about garnish a little bit. I always like to garnish my soups. And for this, I made my own croutons. And here's how I did it. As you can see, our veggies are getting slightly tender. That's what we're looking for. My chicken stock has come to a boil, and so now I'm going to add the barley, and we'll just give that a little bit of a stir. We're going to let that simmer for about 10 minutes, just until it gets nice and puffed up. And look at these veggies. It's time to take out the orange zest and also the garlic, because they've done their part. The heat has hit the garlic and the orange zest and extracted all those wonderful oils, and the flavor is infused into this vegetable mixture. Now you want to make sure and get all of the garlic and all of the orange zest, make sure there's none hiding anywhere. And now it's time to add some more ingredients. Here I've got an 1/8 teaspoon of cayenne. I love a little heat in this. And I also have 1 teaspoon of fresh sage that I chopped. I chopped it earlier when I was chopping my herbs for the croutons, and a teaspoon of fresh thyme that I chopped. And we're just going to give that a little bit of a stir, get that heat working with the cayenne a little bit. Okay, I think that's about right. And we're going to add to that 3 cups of chicken stock. Now, of course, again here you could use vegetable stock if you wanted to make this a vegetarian dish. Now, we're just going to let this come up to a boil. We'll reduce it to a simmer and let it simmer for about 10 minutes or until all the veggies are nice and tender. Now, while that's going on, I've got one more garnish I want to show you. For this, I like to top it with just a little bit of sage dust. Now, as you can see, our veggies are simmering nicely. They need a little bit more time, but it looks to me like our barley is perfect. So I'm just going to take that off the heat and set that aside, and we'll give our veggies a little bit more time. Okay, that is looking perfect. Our veggies have gotten nice and tender. That's what we're looking for because we're going to puree this. I'm going to use an immersion blender. If you don't have one, of course, you can use a regular blender or even a food processor. But be very careful when you do that. Make sure and use like a heavy kitchen towel and hold it on top of the lid so that it doesn't come off. I wouldn't want you to get splashed by the hot liquid. Now, when you're working over the stove, you want to make sure and turn off the heat before you start blending. Okay, that is looking beautiful. It is nice and creamy, just like we want it. It's also a little bit thick, but that's perfect because now we're going to add more stock. I've got 3 more cups of stock we're going to add. We'll stir that in. Also, we're going to season this. We need a ½ teaspoon of sea salt. And we're going to add that barley that we made earlier. We'll just put that in here. It's nice and puffed up, looks great. I'm going to get every little bit of that barley goodness in there. Don't want to miss any of those little kernels. Okay, and we'll just stir that. This is smelling so good right now. What I'm going to do is just bring it back up to temperature. We'll heat it a little bit more, and then we'll be ready to serve it. This soup looks so beautiful. I just love that color. In fact, I think it would be great for fall or maybe a first course at Thanksgiving. Such a beautiful color of orange. And of course, we have to garnish it with those garnishes we made. We're going to take just a few of our little croutons and sprinkle those on top. Like that, maybe a few more. And then, of course, some of that sage dust. Just a little green on there. And you have carrot barley soup. Now, would you like to go to Ireland with me? Here's the best way I know how right now. We're going to taste. Hot. I love the natural sweetness from the carrots, and I love barley in a soup. The little cayenne that we added, just enough heat, and the crunch from the croutons, fabulous. Now, a trip to Ireland may not fit your budget or your schedule right now, but remember, you can still savor the flavors.